feeding, fences, restraint, some of the things we talked about. Failure to realize if they want to get in what I call the reproduction game. That is, boy, it's great to have one, let's raise more. Okay, that's good, so now you have 3 of these animals where you had 1 before, or 4 or 5. A, do you have a market for them? Do you have the facilities for them? Do you realize the cost you're going to get into? I have known, again, several examples, some tragically so, where people just multiply animals in the limited space they have, and you look at the facilities these animals are living in, or the living space, and the amount of feed these people can. Again, I think many times these owners are well-intentioned. I don't think they're malicious. They just fall behind the 8 ball in terms of trying to maintain all the feeding, all the feed requirements, the cleanup after these animals. So I think the biggest issues I usually see are just straightforward. Well, and I'll add one more, and that's awareness of some of the basic everyday ailments. Many people, for instance, could probably guess if their dog or cat has fleas. They might see their dog or cat in their feces pass a worm and say, "Oh my gosh, my dog has worms," or they see something else they may recognize, because again, they're more familiar with that, or maybe they have kids, they've learned to recognize some of the common kid ailments. With, as you said, newbies, people who haven't had species before. I think just knowing some of the basics. Do they come, if it's a female, if she comes in estrus or heat, how often do they do it? What kind of sign? They may call up and panic that their animals, oh my gosh, what's going on? And behaviorally and find out it's just a normal heat cycle. Or they normally do this, or there's a strange grooming behavior that they normally do and they think it's aberrant, or they won't eat this feed, and by gosh, why not? Because I've mixed in the special stuff from the kitchen into it, and maybe find out they don't really like that kind of feed. So I think proper restraint and handling, proper facilities, number one, knowing and understanding proper feed and a feed that they'll eat. This, like I said, the multiplying of numbers game. Keeping one beef cow or a steer is one thing. Keeping 5 or 6 is entirely different. It really almost exponentially increases potential problems and handling of facilities. And then recognizing common ailments, or just knowing some of the everyday things that cattle or sheep or goats or chickens or rabbits or whatever they want to get into face. And what can you expect? The risk of one animal getting a disease isolated from everything else is pretty minimal. If you get one sick animal and you've got 4 other animals like it in the same herd, flock, whatever, now you have this potential. The other thing is, unless you're raising animals on your own, if you were purchasing animals from point A and bringing them to point B, now we get back to that biosecurity issue. You are now raising a risk. How much testing did you do on that animal before you purchased it and brought back to the animal that you've already owned? See, you buy your first rabbit or first chicken and you bring it in, or from one grower, let's say you buy 6 chickens, they may get issues when they first come there, but now you have this established. If you go to grower B, grower C, you add more animals, what are you maybe bringing in that those previous animals weren't exposed to? So depending on your source and how you're trying to multiply your base, that's, there's disease transmission issues. A lot of people don't understand the hierarchical pecking order. The old term, the pecking order comes for a reason. When you start getting group dynamics, you have behavioral issues, social hierarchy. You may read in the textbook somewhere, I need so many linear feet of bunk space, per animal, and then everybody will be happy. However, what you can find is that because you have a dominant animal near a submissive animal, the submissive animal won't eat whenever the dominant animal's around. That animal may become malnourished or not, handle things well, or all the goodies get eaten by the dominant animals, and the submissive ones have to eat. But just as an example, these are bigger animals than dairy animals. But when we look at these animals, they're all having free choice feed. That means they can eat whatever they want to, any time of day. It's a well-balanced, what they call total mixed ration. I kind of call it a cow casserole. But if you look at, they have so many spots in the feed bunk, and whether you're feeding 3 goats or in this case 20 or 30 dairy cattle, there is a hierarchy here, and depending on who's standing where in the room, Some cattle may be reluctant to come eat. So again, on paper, you may have a very good ration, you may have the proper feed, but it gets back to that facilities thing we talked about, and then also understanding the behavior of the animals that you're dealing with, that for the novice, it's easier to start with fewer animals and smaller animals so that you have more control over them, if you will, to make sure you kind of manipulate proper feeding and watering. So again, when I look at this, I'm of course looking at, I as a veterinarian like to look at what's their appetite, seem to be all up eating, are they alert, and I'm also thinking in the back of my mind, who's seeing an opportunity to eat, and where are the waterers, how many waters do they have to the animals. In this case, in this barn, you can see it was designed with the tall ceilings, the open vents, the open sides, for comfort and ventilation. Even on a very warm day like today, it's relatively comfortable in here because this is essentially a big picnic pavilion and designed for animal comfort. And so, again, what have you gone to do to facilitate the raising of these animals?